your eyes open or close them, whatever feels more comfortable for you. And you can also, alter that as we go. It may help to put one hand on your upper chest and one hand on your belly. We're going to try to follow our breath as we breathe in and notice our belly rising and our chest rising. So first, just take a breath in. No particular length or depth. Just breathe in through your nose. As you reach the top of your breath, pause and then exhale through your mouth. As you breathe in through your nose, follow your breath all the way down into your belly. Feel that breath expanding in your diaphragm. Feel your hand rise in your chest and expand through your lungs. And then as you exhale, press the air out using the muscles in your belly so that you fully exhale. And breathing in. And exhale. If you purse your lips just as though you're whistling, that helps to slow your exhale. And try to exhale just a little bit longer than your inhale, so you can work on gradually slowing the pace of your breathing. Sometimes it can help to pace your breath or to focus your attention by counting. So you count up as you breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and pause. And then slowly exhale and count up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And keep exhaling until you feel you've pressed all the air out of your lungs. We're increasing the oxygen, carbon dioxide exchange, slowing your breathing gradually. There may be thoughts that come up as you're breathing, distractions or worries or concerns from the day. Maybe there are sounds in the background. You may hear the sound of traffic, someone talking in the next room. And try and let that move into the background, drifting by and past you as though floating on the surface of a stream until it's out of sight. Then bring your attention back to your breath. With your next breath in, imagine that you're bringing in a feeling of warmth, of calm, just like you're breathing in sunlight. You're feeling that light, that warmth fill your lungs. Then just start to imagine it moving down through your arms and out to the tips of your fingers. And let your hands drop to your lap, You feel comfortable. Imagine that you're holding that light, that warmth in the palm of your hand, focusing your attention, your breath, breathing all the way down into the bottom of your lungs and out to the tips of your fingers. And as you're exhaling, imagine that the tension is unwinding. You can feel your body let go of whatever concerns, whatever tensions, and breathing in that sense of light and warmth, and breathing out, letting go a little further. Take one or two long, slow, deep breaths in. And then we're going to turn this over to Erin.
So just staying right as you are with that breath, following your breath with your attention, focusing on that light and warmth. And starting to notice, as you might have already, any movement in your body that's happening in response to the breath. You might notice your belly expanding as you're breathing in and a gentle lift of the chest. Maybe you notice that softening of the belly, maybe a dropping sensation in the shoulders as you breathe out. Let's take a few more breaths just to notice that, what's moving in your torso, in your body as you're breathing in and breathing out. And then beginning to perhaps exaggerate that movement. Let it get a little bigger. See where else it can go. And we'll just stay focused in the torso for now. So maybe that starts to look like as you breathe in, maybe your chest rises even more. Maybe even take a little bit of an arch in your back. And as you breathe out, perhaps things soften. Maybe it feels like they're shrinking a little bit back towards the center. And just go with that for a few more breaths for yourself. Exaggerating that movement in the torso as you're breathing in, letting the rib cage widen, everything expanding, and as you're breathing out, everything softening. Perhaps curling back towards the center. Now start to let that movement even start to extend into your arms. Maybe as you breathe in, you're reaching your arms out, maybe making your hands wide, and as you breathe out, softening the elbows, softening the fingers. So extending that movement and breath from your torso now out through your arms and maybe even out through your head. Maybe you're tilting your chin up, you're turning your face to the sky. As you're breathing out, you're letting everything fold and curl back in. Again, a few more breaths like that, just exploring the movement through your limbs and your spine. Matching breath with movement and movement with breath. One more breath in, just like that. And on the exhale, you can let your hands come to rest on your lap, wherever it feels right. Then lowering your chin to your chest. And again, you can have your eyes open or closed or moving between the two for any part of this. So your chin lower to your chest and feel that stretch at the back of the neck. And on the inhale, start to roll your right ear over towards your right shoulder. And then turning your face towards the sky. And then on the exhale, as you bring your left ear around to your left shoulder and chin back to the chest. And just take 3 more nice slow circles like that. Inhaling as you roll around to the back and exhaling as you roll back around to the front. After you've completed 3 or 4 complete circles in one direction, reverse that. So you're rolling your left ear to your left shoulder on the inhale, stretching out through the front of the neck, looking up, and then on the exhale, coming back around to the right. A few more times. Inhaling as you roll to the back, exhaling as you roll back to the front. And once your chin is back to your chest the next time, on the inhale, scoop your shoulders forward and then lift them up towards your ears. And as you're doing that, use that to bring your head back upright on your spine. And then exhale your shoulders rolling down your back. And then repeat that a few times. Inhale as you draw those shoulders forward and up. And exhale as you draw them back and down. You can keep this very isolated, just in the shoulders, or if it feels good to let your spine in on it as well, you can make that a little more full in the torso. Inhaling on the forward and exhaling on the back. And then reverse that. Inhale as you draw your shoulder blades back and together, lifting up towards your ears, and then exhale as they cascade forward. Maybe you want to imagine a wave coming up and over your back. Inhale back and exhale forward. And let's get the rest of our arms in on this a little bit. Scoop your elbows forward now. Send them up towards the sky and then exhale back around to get a nice stretch under your arms. So same thing, inhaling, sweeping those elbows forward, up, and exhaling as you take them down to the back. Your fingertips can just rest on your shoulders or wherever is comfortable. Opening up across the chest and the collarbone, and then reverse. Inhale, scooping your elbows to the back, up, and then exhale over to the front. And the next time they come down, just let your arms float back down by your sides. And we'll get the full arm going. Inhale, sweeping out to the sides, up overhead. And exhale, push it away, back down to the ground. Inhale, scooping out and up. Maybe a little lift in the chest or the eyes if you want to look up. And then exhale, sweeping out and down. 2 more times, just like that. And down. Good. With your fingertips resting on the ground, you can maybe walk your right fingertips out to the side slightly, planting your hand down, or if you're in a chair, maybe resting that on your lap, finding a way to take a side bend over. You can sweep that other arm up and over if you like. Get a stretch in the side body. And coming up, and then other way, if you're on the ground, you can walk your fingertips out. If you're in a chair, you can let your arm hang by your side or support you on your lap. Side bend. Take a deep breath in here and feel the rib cage of the side of the body that you're stretching expand slightly, kind of opening like an accordion as you breathe in, softening a little as you breathe out. And let's just take that bend to one side and the other. We won't hold as long. So over, imagine that rib cage opening like an accordion on one side and then the other. And back to the center. Now taking the spine into a little twist, so reaching one hand to the opposite knee. Take a deep breath in and imagine you can lengthen up through your spine, up out through the top of your head. And on the exhale, start to take your eyes around and start to take a twist just as far as you want to go right now. It doesn't need to be that deep. Maybe so that if you have your eyes open, you're seeing something else in your space. Take a couple breaths here, lengthening on the inhale, and if you want to deepen the twist, doing that on the exhale. And then coming back to center, unwinding, and we'll take the same thing on the other side. Hand to opposite knee or opposite thigh. Take a deep breath in and lengthen up through your spine. And then on the exhale, start to find that twist wherever it's taking you right now. Seeing something different with your eyes if they're open. Lengthening on the inhale and deepening the twist on the exhale. And then gently coming back, unwinding yourself back to the center. Now we'll start to go into some circles of our torso. So inhale, as you send maybe your rib cage forward and to the side, and then exhale as you're sending it to the back and the other side. Imagine you're stirring around a big pot with your rib cage, your spine. Inhaling forward and side and exhaling back into the other side. These can be as big or as small as feels right now. And then reverse, go in the other direction. Inhale forward and side, exhale to the back and the other side. And back to the center. Good. Now, if you're seated on the floor, I invite you to join me in a tabletop position where you'll be on your hands and your knees. If you're in a chair, You can stay seated and continue this work. We'll start doing some cat-cows, which are an arch of the spine this way and that way. Those can just as easily be done seated in your chair, just curling your spine and arching. We're going to get into some lifting of the arms and the legs, and also just in your chair, you can practice lift and lift, and if you're seated, just lifting the legs out this way. And if you find other modifications that work for you, that's great as well. So on our hands and knees, your hands, if you're in this position, are lined up underneath your shoulders, and your knees are directly underneath your hips. And we're going to use the exhale to curl our tailbone under and take that nice rounding of the spine, looking towards your belly button. Same is true if you're seated. And then arching the other direction, sending that tailbone up, widening through the collarbone, looking up. And you can play around here with what feels best. Do you like to inhale as you're rounding and exhale as you're arching? Or do you prefer it the other way, to exhale as you round and inhale as you arch? So just play around with that a little bit for yourself so you can find a breath and movement pattern that feels natural for you. And then we'll come back to center, to what we would maybe call a neutral spine. And on your next inhale, sweep your right arm up and down on the exhale, and inhale, lift the left and down. And just alternate the arms just like that on the breath, lifting and lowering. And down. And then root the hands down, and we'll do the same thing with the legs. So inhale, lift, let a leg float up, either behind you if you're in tabletop, or in front of you if you're seated in a chair, if you have room in front of you. And we'll just alternate the legs, one side and the other. And then we'll put this together. So as you inhale, you'll sweep maybe the left arm and the right leg to lift. So you're lifting opposites. And take a couple breaths here, breathing through maybe some heat that's building, some extra work in your muscles that's happening, and floating those back down. And then other side, inhale, let opposites sweep up. And find a couple of breaths here. Breathe through that work, a little bit of extra exertion in your body. And down. We'll do that a couple more times each side, not maybe holding as long, but sweeping up and down, and switch sides, up and down, and do that a few more times for yourself, alternating sides. And when you feel like you're pretty evened out there, if you've been on your hands and knees, you can set your hips back towards your heels and shake out the wrists. And this could be fun to do even if you were just seated in your chair. Give those a nice little shake, just a little recuperation. Interlace your hands. Maybe I'll come up here so you can see. Notice which thumb is on top, and then switch. And then do that a few times, just switching back and forth. And then stay, whichever one you land on, and take some figure eights. Going one direction, and then the other. And then shake that out again. We're going to go back into that position just to take a little bit more of a twist here. If you are seated, the way that you could do this will be sweeping an arm up and to the side. You see me? And we're going to be threading it under. So you could do that seated, just sweeping up and through your arm this way. And then when we hold in the twist, you can maybe just wrap that arm around your waist and just enjoy this little twist here. For those of us in the tabletop, here we are. You're going to plant one hand firmly down and sweep the other fingertips up towards the ceiling. So you're already going into a little twist here on the inhale. On the exhale, dive those fingers under the opposite arm, and then inhale, sweep them up again. So we'll do that a few times before we go into our hold. Sweeping up, and it's nice if you want to follow with your focus, follow with your eyes. And this last time we'll sweep up, and now on the exhale, dive it through, and then you can rest your shoulder down on the ground if you're in the tabletop, and enjoy a little more of a kind of an extreme twist here. If you're seated, you can thread that arm through, and maybe even pull against your leg to increase the twist. Again, breathing through any tension that may have collected, any points of your spine that might feel especially tight. Imagine you can actually exhale from that spot. So let that breath carry the tension away. And then planting your hand down, if you're down on the ground, to unfurl, twisting in that opposite direction again, and then bring the hands back to center. Nice, and we'll do that on the other side. Planting one hand down, sweeping the other arm up, and then exhale, dive it through that opposite arm. So you're getting a little up and down and through. Opening up and diving through. Inhale, open. Exhale, dive. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, opening up, and exhale, send those fingers through to rest your shoulder on the ground. You can press into that opposite hand to increase the twist in your spine. And take some nice deep breaths here. And then pressing into that hand if you're down on the ground, if you're seated, unfurling, everyone reaching up, and then back to center. And we're going to take one leg back and get a little calf stretch here. So you're just kind of rocking back and forth. Again, if you're seated, if you want to reach your leg out in front of you and maybe point and flex the foot, just to get a little mobility in that ankle joint. You could even maybe make circles with that ankle joint. If you're here on the floor, you can just kind of rock back and forth, getting a nice calf stretch in that one leg. And then switch. And other side. And back to center. And we'll set up for one final pose here before we go into some acupressure points. So we're going to do a child's pose. Now, the point of doing this is for it to be kind of a rest, but to also start to be able to feel how when we breathe in, the expansion in the back of our body as well. Sometimes we get very focused on our chest and our belly and that movement in the front of the body, but we want to kind of breathe into the space in the back of our body as well. So if you're seated, one nice way to do that is maybe just warm your hands up a little bit. And then if you can, just to reach behind and place your hands maybe on the small of your back, like over maybe where your kidneys are, or maybe up at your rib cage, and just breathe into that spot. If you carry tension in your low back, this can feel really good just to have kind of the weight and the warmth of your hands there. So that's what you can do if you're seated. If you are on the ground, you can either bring your toes together and have your knees out to the side so that as you sit your hips back, your belly can kind of drape between your knees, and this can be a nice release for the low back. Or you can keep your knees together and go back this way, which is just a slightly different stretch, but we're achieving the same thing. So whatever you'd like to choose there, resting back into a child's pose. Your arms can be out on the ground in front of you, forehead on the floor, or if you'd like to make a little pillow for your forehead with your hands to lay down there. And wherever you are, just reconnecting with your breath now. And letting it expand out through the back of your body as well. Again, bringing that lovely image in the beginning that Megan gave us of that light and warmth that you're bringing in with your breath. And maybe you can send that to your low back. Take 2 more breaths here, wherever you are. And then if you have been over in a child's pose, you can start to walk your hands back towards your knees to come back to an upright position. Just give yourself a moment to reorient there to being vertical. If you've had your hands on your back, you can just bring them back to your lap, wherever feels good. And just take a moment again to notice, without judgment, any shifts in your body, in your thoughts, kind of emotional state or your mood from when we first began. Just taking note of what has changed. Okay. So you can open your eyes if you've had them closed. So I will conclude just this portion before I pass it back to Megan for a visualization practice, and then we'll have time for some questions with giving you some acupressure points. So this is all of these stretches, obviously everything that we're doing here today are things that you can also practice in your own time. I personally have found acupressure points to be an extremely portable self-care option. And a book that I would like to recommend to you, and I can put this up in the chat later, it's called Acupressure's Potent Points, A Guide to Self-Care for Common Ailments. So
if any of you have received maybe acupuncture before, or maybe you've received acupressure before, or are familiar with traditional Chinese medicine, the ideas of meridians running through the body that correspond with various organ systems and various physical as well as emotional components of our lives. These points are points along those meridians, and they correspond with various health benefits. So a couple that I'm going to share with you right now are especially good for any chest, like respiratory issues, congestion, anything like that, as well as anxiety, calming anxiety. So the first one, and they have these in this book, they have these very poetic names, which I also love. So this first one is called Elegant Mansion. And if you bring your fingers just to that knob kind of your collarbone, if you trace your fingers along your collarbone, your clavicle, and then at your neck where it's joining with your sternum, you feel that kind of round knob. And then you drop your fingers down below that. So on either side, you'll kind of drop them down and out to the side a little bit. On either side of your sternum, we might feel a little indentation there. Yes, I'm looking and seeing that people are kind of finding that. Maybe it's a little tender. You can either place your thumbs there, kind of have fists, or if you want if it feels better, it kind of depends on what feels better for you with your hands, just to hold that point. And take some deep breaths in and out. Again, you're welcome to close your eyes or keep them open. Just applying steady, firm pressure, not too hard, but firm enough to that point. You might start to feel the tissues of your skin and your muscles underneath your fingers start to release a little bit. This is Elegant Mansion. Relieves chest congestion and anxiety. And then you can gently release from that. The next point we'll find is working also out along your collarbone. So if you take your fingers back to your collarbone and kind of trace them along, and you might notice as it gets out closer towards your shoulder, it starts to get real knobby and busy out there. But just before that, there's this little curve. You might feel this little curve of your collarbone. Are you feeling that around? And if you drop down, maybe about 3 finger widths down from there, you're going to hit some perhaps very tender points. And in fact, feel around and in there a little bit until you find a point that feels a little tender, tolerable, but tender. Has everyone found something? Yeah. So this is, again, you can do this with thumbs. I tend to like to do my thumbs and then lay my fingers kind of across my chest, like a little kind of comfort to my heart while I'm here. This point is particularly on the lung meridian. Again, good for various respiratory ailments as well as emotional tension. So we'll just take a few breaths here. Breathing in and breathing out. This point is actually called letting go. One more deep breath in, and on the exhale, just let that release. And the final one I will share with you, it's the first one I learned, and it's a point that is kind of a very, what do I want to say, like prime point that gets at a lot of different parts of the body. It's called joining the valley, and it's considered an anti-inflammatory point that it can take care of pain of lots of kinds. So if you hold your hand up and then bring your thumb towards your hand, you'll notice on that side that the flesh kind of like pooches out a little bit, right? You see that fleshy part on your hand? So that's where you're gonna place your thumb. And then your index finger is going to go on the palm side of your hand, just directly behind that point. Yeah. And then you're going to press your thumb and your index finger towards each other and a little bit towards the inside, like a little bit, so you're kind of running into the metacarpal, which is that bone of that finger. Does that make sense, that you're pressing in and a little bit in towards your hand? Yeah. And just take some deep breaths here. This is, I have found this, what really got my buy-in, I guess I'll say, on this, is that I started using this point for headaches and found that it was very effective. Another breath in and out, and release. We'll just do the same thing on the other side, setting yourself up with your thumb, your index finger pressing towards each other, and then kind of in towards the center of your hand a little bit. And let that release. Very good. Okay, so I will now pass it back to Megan for one more experience before we move to our discussion.
Thank you, Erin. I feel very relaxed and stretched out and aware in my body, which is wonderful. So for this exercise, we're going to take one more deep breath in. You can set your breath using your hands again, or just keep your hands in your lap. And then as you're taking that breath and exhaling, if you feel comfortable doing so, I want you to close your eyes. We're going to start to imagine. This can be a real place, or it can be a place that you build from whatever elements, a place that feels particularly calm, safe, present, very comfortable and relaxed for you. It can be someplace from your past. It can be someplace that you go to regularly now. It can also be someplace that could not be real, someplace that is magical, that you could be floating on a cloud, something that for you feels very relaxed. And as you're breathing in and you're calling up the image of this place, imagine yourself sitting or standing in this location. Maybe you're at the beach or near the ocean. Maybe you're on a hike. Maybe you're in a field. Maybe you're in a favorite room or location on a porch. Maybe you're floating on that cloud. I want you to, in your mind, open your eyes and begin to look around that place. What do you see? What are the shapes? What are the colors? What kinds of textures do you notice in what you see? Is anything moving? Can you see leaves moving in the breeze? Do you notice the grasses swaying? Is there a bird dipping and soaring in and around your cloud? Or are you looking up at the sky and noticing a bird? Imagine that you feel just as relaxed and supported as that bird, gliding on the currents of air. Notice what you might hear as those grasses move. Do you hear them rustling against each other? As the leaves are moving in the breeze, do you hear that as a sort of light rhythm? Do you hear the sound of the ocean, or if it's a large lake, the waves moving, coming in and going out in an even rhythm? Is there a stream nearby and you can hear it moving and singing around the rocks? As you look down, do you see the light speckling on the surface of that water as you hear it moving as well? If this is an area where you feel comfortable moving around, maybe start to walk. If you want to be seated or lying down, let yourself stretch out. Start to put your hands out. Notice what you feel. If you're on the beach, maybe you reach out and feel the texture of the sand. If you're taking a walk on a lovely, warm, rainy day, maybe you feel the drops of rain. If you're on a bright, sunny day, maybe you feel the warmth of the sun and the gentleness of a breeze. Maybe you can reach out if you're on a hike and there's a stone or a boulder at the side of the hill that you can reach out. Notice the textures. Is it rough? Is it smooth? Can you feel the grains of sand? If you're floating on that cloud, is it soft? Does it feel like a bubble bath? Is it warm? Do you feel supported? Does it feel like you can wrap yourself in it? Is it just a little bit as though you're floating on a gentle surface of a lake? If you're lying in a hammock, do you feel the texture of the hammock? So maybe even just reach down. Notice what you're wearing, the texture of your clothing, the feel of the ground under your feet. And now I want you to take a deep breath in this world. What do you smell as you're breathing in? If you're in that field, are you smelling the scent of the earth and the grasses and the flowers? If it's a summer day, do you almost smell that heat of the sun and how it's warming everything around you? If it's a fall day, do you kind of smell that fall scent of the leaves beginning to shift? If you're in a room, a favorite comfortable room, do you smell the scent of something cooking or some warm tea? And then what do you taste as you take another breath in? What might you taste in the air? If you're by the seaside, if you're on the ocean, can you taste the salt in the air? Can you taste the scent of summer or of spring? If you're reaching out in and you notice that there's lavender or rosemary growing in the field by you, can you bring that up and smell that and almost taste what that would be as you breathe in the scent? Now I want you to expand your awareness out and combine all of those elements, what you see and what you hear, the textures you can notice in the world around you, what you can feel. what you're smelling and what you're tasting in this imagined space. Take a deep breath in, breathing in that awareness, feeling relaxed and present. Follow your breath out, feeling your tension let go, letting it leave your body with your breath. As you breathe in, expanding that awareness, relaxing further. If there's any extraneous stimuli from the world, integrate that into what you're imagining, or let it go just as you're letting your breath go. Continuing to breathe. And then if you're standing, if you've been walking in this place, I want you to find somewhere in this location that you can have a comfortable seat. Maybe there's a boulder, maybe there's a clear patch, maybe there's even a chair or a log, somewhere where you can sit down comfortably or even lie down. And let yourself be aware of your body settling back, settling into that restful position. And you're breathing. Take 2 or 3 more breaths in this position, in this place. Following your breath in, looking around, listening, touching, noticing the scents and the tastes. Now we're going to begin to start to come back. I'm going to begin to count us back. Your next breath in, I want you to start to become aware of the chair or the floor where you're seated in this room. Maybe there's a cushion under you. Maybe you can feel your feet on the floor. And we're going to carry that awareness, that relaxation, the peace of that place that we were just in with us as we begin to return. And we'll use our 5 senses to come back again. And now 2. We're going to expand out as you breathe in. What do you smell in this room around you? You smell the scent of something cooking, a candle burning, maybe the familiar scent of your room or your living room. 3, continuing to come back, but carrying that feeling of present moment, feeling safe, feeling calm and relaxed. And now for what you hear around you. What sounds do you notice in the room? Maybe it's the movement of someone else in another room next door. Maybe it's the sound of the rain outdoors. And cars and traffic going by. And now 5, I want you to open your eyes and find a point on the far side of the room. Let your eyes focus there. What colors, shapes, what objects do you notice as you focus on that point? We spend so much of our days focused in on the close distance, on the screens in front of us, or reading, focusing in on a far distant point. Lets the muscles around and behind our eyes let go of their tension as well. But just breathing in, focused, noticing details, letting those muscles release their tension. And then bringing your attention back to the center point in front of you. Maybe that's where you were looking anyway, but keeping your neck and spine aligned. We're going to take a deep breath and release. Follow your breath out. On this next breath in, just let your arms rise up and stretch your fingertips toward the ceiling. Let your eyes follow your hands as you breathe in. And then as you exhale, slowly drop your arms back down again. Let them come to rest on your belly, bringing yourself, your awareness back to center. And let one last breath in. And slowly releasing, rolling your shoulders back. Thank you very much for joining us in those exercises.